Hello YouTube viewers, welcome to my show Future Friday. In today's episode, we're gonna take a closer look at smart sensors. So let's dive right into it. Now, first thing you have to understand why the heck there is a need for this. Now, you have to understand we do a lot of management right now, like in our industry, in our agriculture, in our medical care, we do a lot of management. We want to be better at it. So it takes less resources, less waste, those sort of things. We really want to be better with our management. And on top of that, this is very crucial for industry is that we want to do what we call preventative maintenance. Basically, let's say you have a motor and that runs and it's doing something crucial. Let's say it's for elevator or some air compressor, which is necessary. Let's say you have to have it. Now here's the deal. Let's say you know for a fact that it's gonna break down in 1 week. Then you can schedule your situation like that. Okay, it's gonna break down. We're gonna have to change the motor. You can plan ahead and be like, okay, we're gonna shut down the compressor on this date beforehand, so you can minimize your losses, change the equipment, and then continue on with your work. So basically, you will prevent a catastrophic shutdown or worst case scenario, basically loss of life. Because sometimes if person is relying on equipment to work, it randomly failing can cause loss of life. So it is very crucial for us. And it also helps with accurate prediction. So basically, let's say somebody gives you, okay, this is a generator. Now they're gonna oversell you no matter what. So let's say this is a generator, they're gonna be like, okay, this generator should work for 5 years. And you're like, okay, so 5 years, this much profit I'm making because of this generator. I will keep a little bit of money on the side so I can replace it when it needs replacing. Now let's say you have smart sensor on that, you will know, oh, okay, in 4 years itself it's about to go down. Then you can replace it, because if it goes down while you are in middle of something important, it's gonna cost you a lot of money. And maybe a scenario happens where it's like, you never strained your generator so much that it's like, it's completely healthy, and the time is coming that 5-year warranty is over and you are like, okay, I should change it, but your sensor will tell you are completely okay and don't have to worry about it. So these sort of things is a necessity for better management of society. Then comes the aspect of what the heck smart means. Now you have to understand, we always had sensors. We had sensors from the beginning of industrial revolution. So this is a very simple thing. Like if you've seen any steam engines, these have hundreds of valves, pressure gauges and all that. These are sensors. These are inherent sensors. What makes these sensors into smart sensor is very simple. Data cataloging. Basically what that data is, where it's coming from, you want to catalog it. On top of that, you want to record it. Now this is critical aspect. Let's say you have pressure gauge and you arrange it in such a way that you can just look at it and figure out what's happening, but is it cataloging? Let's say you are running a motor or a boiler and it had a pressure spike. You are not there to see the spike, so how will you know? That is why we want a recording. On top of that, we also want to process it. Now if you have, let's say, a large factory where you have hundreds of machines going on, if you can process that data, it can tell you what is going wrong. Basically it can tell you, hey, let's say it's a cement factory and there is some places where you're grinding stone and that grinder is not working properly. You can only figure it out if you have large processing, because if you don't process it, the best you can get, okay, this motor is wrong. Now does that affect your product? Yes or no? You need to do processing for that. This is why we want to catalog, then record, and then process it. That's what makes a sensor smart sensor. So what do we need for this? Let's say you want to do it, or you want to start a company that does this sort of thing. What do you need? The first thing you have to need is low power wireless technology. Now question becomes, why wireless? Now industry is really chaotic places. If you had luxury to see inside a factory like a cement factory or anything, they are generally very messy places. You really don't want to lay down Ethernet cable or optical fiber there. Like you can do that, like if you are designing it from scratch, you can do that, but if you, let's say, want to retrofit on an existing factory, it's gonna be a messy. So wireless becomes a very crucial aspect. Now we always had wireless, but we need what we call low power wireless. So because if you don't do low power wireless, the problem becomes you need to have a power adapter going to it. That defeats the purpose of not having cables. So we want low power wireless, and this is where Bluetooth comes along, NFC comes along, UHS come along. Like these sort of things help us achieve our low power wireless requirement. On top of that, the device itself, let's say data transmission is only taking few milliwatts of power, and your battery can provide that for, let's say, days to years. But your equipment should consume less, because let's say your mobile phone Bluetooth is consuming very less power, but the screen is consuming too much power. So in those sort of scenario, we have to make sure the device itself, whatever is doing the measuring, be it accelerometer, be it gyroscope, whatever is doing that measurement should also consume less power. This is thanks to, because of large progress in mobile industry, accelerometer, gyroscopes are now like silicon chip size. So we have made great strides in this sort of regard. So now our sensors consume very little amount of power, and we can transmit that data very efficiently on very little amount of power. and high bandwidth storage is needed, because this is a polygraph machine. Now if older days, this is how your everything used to look like. So sensors were analog, so they were giving a feedback. That feedback was recorded directly on a paper using stretch. So you can understand, you have to unroll the paper and then figure out, okay, timestamps. They were like, stretching what time it is, and let's say 12 p.m, 1 p.m, 3 p.m, 4 p.m, things of that way, and then you will find out, okay, from 3 p.m this happened. So we also need a better way of storage. Let's say you figured all these things out, but you're not storing the data properly, it's pointless. So for that reason, we need high bandwidth storage. Thankfully, that only translates to a 32 GB SD card, more than good enough. So, and nowadays smart sensors are so small that they can be powered by a laptop battery, like a computer clock battery, that are very small, lithium battery. They can run for 2 to 3 years, Bluetooth, including Bluetooth. So you have to understand, we are very far along in this development. Then question becomes, okay, we did all this hassle, what did it allow us to do? Now you have to, in agriculture, this is a priceless instrument. Now any farmer who invests in this sort of technology actually ends up making more money than a farmer that did not, because this allows a lot of other things to happen. Now for example, let's say you have farming, and in farmers, they pay for water. Now in some scenario, if they don't pay for water, they have to run their water pump. Like let's say they are getting water from directly underground water. So in those sort of scenarios, running the motor adequately, let's say they need 500 liter water, they run the motor for 1 hour, awesome. But let's say they overrun the water, not only they are wasting electricity, not only they are wasting water, they are also damaging the crops, which is a very bad thing. So these sort of scenario requires you to data manage, and you need every day, because you are watering the plants every day, you need that data every day. You cannot be like, okay, before the seasoning I figured it out, like this is how my water channel will be laid out, and this is how much water I'm going to spread. Maybe you did everything fine, but let's say temperature spike happened, and on that day your plants are drying out even though you are giving adequate amount of water. So you need feedback loop. This is what we call farming bot. Basically, there are a lot of small projects that you can do on your own, and you can even do with Raspberry Pi and things of that nature. Basically, you can grow a lot of crops in a very confined space, or even increase the production of the farmland you have, because you will know a lot of crucial things like humidity of the soil, temperature of the soil, acidity of the soil, nitrogen level of the soil. These sort of information, if you can get day by day, you can improve your basic productivity and reduce any random loss. Let's say for some reason, some bacteria or virus started to give diseases to your crops and they start dying out, you will get instant message in your system, because something will change. Because let's say either the humidity is changing because your plant is not absorbing enough water, or your nitrogen will become unbalanced because it's absorbing too much. So it will give you a very early warning, and you can isolate that area. Okay, let's say I have 10 hectare of land, this 100 square feet or 10 meter by 10 meter area is defective, so you can easily quarantine that area before it infects your entire farm. So this is crucial. This is not something like a luxury. We have to have this if you want to make sure that you can feed humanity, all 10 billion of us. We have to improve our production efficiency while consuming less resources, because this will allow you to save water, this will allow you to save crops and have better output. It's better for everyone. And whenever people hear things like IoT, as in Internet of Things, most of you are thinking about, let's say, refrigerator, air conditioners, or things of that nature. This is the where IoT really makes a difference. This is where IoT, if done properly, can make sure that crop prices never go beyond basically inflation. So let's say crop prices will always go up. Like rice, 1 kg of rice will always get more and more expensive, but let's say instead of getting it will match the inflation. It won't go like earlier it used to be 10% of inflation, now it's 50% of the inflation, and 3 years you can't afford a kilo of rice. It won't happen, because we can utilize the resource we have more effectively. This is why it is crucial in agriculture industry, the smart sensor technology. Then we come to industry. Now industry, you have to understand, the industrial machines are very, very expensive, and they are meant to run for a very long time. Now when they classify as a long run time, there are many categories. You can simply go to a person who's building motors for, let's say, elevators. They will tell you, okay, this motor should run for you for 10 years. Then somebody will tell you, okay, my motor is 10 times more expensive, but it runs for 25 years. If uptime is important for you, you may pay that. Now what if whatever motor you bought, you put a lot of smart sensor on that, and it tells you like when it needs maintenance? Because if you do preventive maintenance on, let's say, motor, let's say a motor is consuming a lot of power, how? Is there a lot of load into it? You may think that now, but if you have smart sensor, it will have also multiple sensors. It will have a sound sensor. So if, let's say, start making random sounds, either some debris has gone into the bearings or bearing itself is damaged. Let's say the power factor starts to drift. Now the capacitor is wrong. So you can do preventive measurement to make sure even a normal day-to-day average motor like this will run for a very long time. Like you can see, ABB is making a lot of strides in this department, and they have come across with a lot of packages you can buy and bolt it into your motor right now. If you have a lot of industry running around, you can do this right now today. You can go online, buy this product and do this sort of maintenance. And this also improves safety. If let's say somebody is relying on cranes, and cranes run on motor, the motor is running basically hydraulic couplers and hydraulic pumps. So if any point randomly something goes wrong, it can injure people at best case scenario. At worst case scenario, can end people's life. So we have to make sure we know how things are going. So in case of a motor, which is basically backbone of everything, so if you can detect it, basically what kind of sensor you need basically accelerometer, you need temperature sensor, you need basically electrical amp meter. If you are collecting all that data, you can easily tell your company is like, hey, I think motor number 5 is about to go down, please change it before it goes down. So this is very critical for us. This also helps entire humanity, not some company, entire humanity. In terms of future, what does it allow entirety of humanity? I'm not talking about India, I'm not talking about Pakistan, I'm not talking about America, I'm talking about entirety of human race. It allows longer lifespan. Basically, let's say you bottle it, something like this. Instead of these lathes, which may be very effective, may be very good, and there are many people who swear by old lathes, which very big, very sturdy and very solid. The only defective part was, let's say, motor, driving motor. If you had smart sensor on it, you can easily find out what is wrong, exactly what is wrong. And smart sensor is not limited to motor only, they are limited to other things. A lot of surfaces have them, a lot of calibrating equipments need them. So in those sort of scenario, you can make sure you bought equipment, let's say a power tool, let's say a drill press or CNC machine. You can figure out, okay, how long it's gonna last. This will reduce waste. That is very awesome for us. Let's say instead of your lathe being running for, let's say, 5 years, let's say 10 years, if you are big industry, you're changing your lathe machine every 10 years, you can be like, okay, we'll keep using one lathe for years and years to come. Now you might be like, okay, lathe changing every 10 years, that happened because of Chinese manufacturing. They made it so cheap, it was cheaper to replace than repair. Now repairing requires you to figure out what's wrong. Smart sensor will take care of that stage. So at that point you can make a very informed decision that is it worth to change or is it worth to do basically repair. And Internet of Things basically will unlock it in a much more massive way. Imagine it this way: when you have an air conditioner in your home, like right now it's summer, so you must be familiar with air conditioner right now, and air conditioner have a lot of vectors. So basically it has to maintain a lot of things. Let's say it has to maintain its compressor motor. Is the power factor of the motor correct, aka basically the capacitor working properly or not? Okay, awesome, you check that. How hot is the motor? Let's say there are two motors. One motor would be the inside on the in a split AC, one motor would be in the inside, another would be on the outside. Now is the outside within tolerance? Let's say it was meant to work upwards of 70 degrees Celsius but is going to 80 degrees Celsius, then you have to figure out something wrong has happened. Let's say there is white paint on air conditioning unit to make sure it reflects light, but let's say water has eroded it and now it's gray, it's absorbing a lot more heat. You can fix it before it gets bad. This is why, like, Internet of Things will allow us to do smart sensing. Smart sensing will allow us to use resources which we have already. Right now we can use those resources much more effectively for much longer time, and this will make a very drastic improvement in our quality of life regarding heavy equipment, basically big motor pumps, big compressor units, basically anything that is big, bulky, expensive, and agriculture. It will make a lot of basically life saving kind of equipment decisions for us, and agricultural benefit cannot be understated anyway. So this was my presentation on smart sensors. I hope you liked it, learned from it. In that case, please click the ad shown in this video. That will directly help me. And if you didn't like it, don't worry about it. You can press dislike. I would urge you to press it twice to show me your extra disappointment. And please leave a comment because I reply to all of them. Subscribe, press the bell icon if you're free, and as always, thanks for watching.